Well, good morning. It's very good to see so many people here. Welcome to the first of our new series of Sunday morning Dharma talks at Hokyoji. Just looking at all the faces. I think I know most of the people here, but my name is Kosen Aaron Jorgensen Briggs, and I'm a staff member here at Hokyoji. And this morning it's my pleasure to introduce a man who needs no introduction, Reverend Dokai Georgesen. For those of you who may not know, Reverend Georgeson started practicing Zen with Katagiri Roshi in 1974, and he was ordained as a priest in 1984 and received permission to teach in 1989. And he's been the guiding teacher here at Hokyoji since 2003. So without further ado, thank you for being here, and I'll turn it over to Dokai.
Thank you, Aaron. I'm just going to do a little technological thing. And it seems like there's quite a bit of background noise coming from Hokyoji. Is that true for everyone else? Do you hear like a lot of, you don't? Some do, some don't.
Well, Dokai, why don't I just mute myself for now?
Okay, maybe it's the HEPA filters or whatever. But
It's
okay.
the heater, it's chilly.
Oh, okay. Well, that was going to be one of my first questions. Like it looks really nice and warm in there, Aaron, but I know we don't have the heat on, so I wonder what the temperature is. It's probably about 40 degrees or so. In any event, I'm glad you're broadcasting from the Zendo, even though it's chilly. Yes, and I recognize most names here, but there's a couple who I don't. Maybe at the end of my talk, we can introduce ourselves, since there's not lots of us here. Although. So I'm going to begin by speaking about a person who died on Thursday of this week, and maybe most of you don't know the person, but some of us do. He was a longtime member of the Minnesota Zen Meditation Center, and his name was Arnie Lundquist. And just a couple words from his obituary that was either published today or tomorrow, according to my understanding. It says Arnie was curious, funny, stubborn, and tough. He never had a computer or automobile, and was up in a plane once on a sightseeing trip over Lake Nokomis in 1940. Arnie lived in the same house he was born in for 91 years. And then another paragraph I'll read was, he was a member of Minnesota Zen Meditation Center for many years, where he met many of his friends. Although he never married or had children, his close friends, Lee Lewis, Bill Tresh, Dave Bruss, and Kathleen Haney, saying that right? Thank you, Ekyo. And neighbors helped him survive and thrive in his home in his later years. So Arnie and I hadn't had much contact in the recent years. But I do know about his stubbornness a little bit. I told this story just a couple of weeks ago, but he was the Jikido, where that person has the position of cleaning the Zendo. And he did it in a certain way. And I had gone to Japan and trained for quite a bit of time, more than a year. And there was a certain way that I learned in Japan how to clean the Zendo. It's very particular. Where you start at the altar and go out. And so I saw Arnie not doing it the way I was taught in Japan. And I was like, that's the person who kind of is the overall director of people in the Zendo. And I just asked him, hey, Arnie, why don't you do it this way? Because, it's the way I learned. And and he basically said, no, I'm not going to do it that way. So, anyway, it was kind of funny, but yeah, so that's the funny part. I didn't get mad at him or anything. I just said, well, can't tell Arnie to do anything. So anyway, I liked him a lot. Kind of like the fact he never had a computer or an automobile. I didn't have an automobile for a long time in my life. So I can appreciate that. Oh, and then I like the fact that he never married, because I'm not married. And that he had these friends who stepped up to help him out in his later years. So I kind of have some concerns about that in my own life. What's going to happen to me when I get to be 90? And I can't walk around or do things. So I'm kind of thinking about that. My cousin and I would talk about a few years ago, or a number of years ago. Well, we're in the last quarter. We're both kind of like sports to some degree, and he likes them more than I do. But he says, we're in the last quarter of our life. Now it's like, well, we're in the last half of the last quarter. So these kind of things are beginning to unfold in my mind. So he will be fondly remembered by friends. So that's my little talk about Arnie. I know most of you maybe don't know him, but some of you do. So the subject of today's talk that I'm giving is cultivating joy through cooking through the community, serving food and cooking for the community. And during our sesshin, during the winter practice period, we had Shimyo Atkinson lead the sesshin. And the theme was cultivating joy. And she brought out an example from Dogen, one of the founders of the particular Zen Buddhist tradition that we study, Soto Zen. And it was just a book called Instructions for the Cook. And so, and she found passages in there about cultivating joy by just cooking for the community. And I did have the opportunity to cook for a week in my during the practice period, so it kind of brought that back to me. And the Tenzo Kyokan, that's the formal name, Instructions for the Cook, had always been an important text for me. I'd always resonated very well with it. So, and then she also brought up the fact that in Japanese, the word for abbot just means provider of food. That's it for the community. So I kind of like that title. We don't use the word abbot. A lot of Zen centers don't, because it has a very, kind of hierarchical kind of slant to it. So we say the guiding teacher some places. But I appreciate, oh, that's my main job, just to provide food for the community. Nothing else too big. And so that was insightful for me. I don't know the Japanese word for abbot, or I've forgotten it. But she found that out by some way or another. So I'm going to just read a few passages. This isn't going to be a long talk. Some instructions for the cook from Dogen that stand out for me. So he says, this work has always been carried out by teachers settled in the way, and by others who have aroused the bodhisattva spirit within themselves. Such a practice requires exhausting all your energies. If a person entrusted with this work lacks such a spirit, then the person will only endure unnecessary hardship and suffering that will have no value in the pursuit of the way. So having been served as a cook in many different situations, I'm hoping, my spirit was aligned in the right way. But I do know that I have endured hardship and suffering as the cook. It's just, it's been quite exhausting at times, and especially when someone criticizes your food. That used to happen a lot. People don't do that so much anymore. But anyway, so I hope my spirit was in the right direction, and it has served for value in my pursuit of the way. So one day, this is there was a person named Zui Feng, was once the Tenzo cook under Dongshan. One day, while Zong Feng was washing the rice, Dongshan happened to pass by and asked, "Do you wash the sand and pick out the rice, or wash the rice and pick out the sand?" Wang Feng replied, "I wash and throw away both sand and rice together." Wang Feng replied, "Then what on earth do the residents eat?" Dongshan pressed. In reply, Wang Feng turned over the rice bucket. On seeing that, Dongshan said, "The day will come when you will practice under another teacher." So let's just examine this little story a little bit. So it's an interesting question, kind of. Do you wash the sand and pick out the rice, or do you wash the rice and pick out the? Do you wash the sand and pick out the rice, or wash the rice and pick out the sand? In a way, the sand and the rice is a metaphor for what I'm going to call basically the desirable and the undesirable. The sand is what something we don't desire, and the rice is something we desire. So do you differentiate between what you like and what you don't like? And so Fling Feng was pretty sharp, and he says, I wash and throw away both at the same time. And Dongshan presses him a little further, because it's kind of like his response is like something that's, I live in an undifferentiated world of oneness, kind of a Zen kind of sickness in a certain way. And then, so that's why Dongshan asks him, well, then what do people eat if you throw everything away? And then Doing Thing, turns the whole rice bucket over, kind of a bit of a dramatic gesture. And Dongshan wasn't into drama, so that's why I said, someday you're going to find a different teacher. And he did. And so Zen, generally speaking, in our Soto Zen practice, we try to keep things very ordinary and no big like drama. In all of the lectures that I attended by Katagiri Roshi, I never really saw him do anything dramatic, like take a stick and hit the floor or something like that. He just talked in a normal way. Although I did hear, I wasn't present when he was at Hokyoji when we had a tree planting ceremony, that he let out this big scream. That was a little hard for me to imagine, but I guess it's true because people have told me it's true. Dogen goes on to say, you should not carelessly throw away the water that remains after washing the rice. When you have finished washing the rice, put it into the cooking pot. Take special care lest a mouse accidentally falls into it. Under no circumstances allow anyone who happens to be drifting through the kitchen to poke his or her fingers around or look into the pot. So I kind of like these very concrete things that Dogen speaks to. I like the idea of, a mouse could fall into the cooking pot. At Hokyoji, especially where I live, I have quite a big problem with mice. And but I've never had one fall into my cooking pot. So anyway, in the old days, that just might happen, I guess. I also like this little line that says, under no circumstances allow anyone who happens to be drifting through the kitchen to poke fingers around or look into the pot. These days at Hokyoji, our kitchen is quite separated from the normal activity that we do. And so there's no real reason for anyone to walk through the kitchen. But previously, the kitchen was up in my residence where I live, the main kitchen. And so many times through the day, I would have to walk through the kitchen to get to my room. And I always like other people's cooking better than my own. And so I'd be walking through the kitchen, I'd smell something that smelled really good. And it was very tempting to think, what is that? What is that? I'd like to look in there and smell it. And so I can resonate with that. And I can resonate with, people wanting to do that. But it's not the kind of practice that Dogen suggests we do. It also reminds me of another piece he wrote. It's called, in Japanese, it's called the Fuku Hanshipo. And it's instructions for eating. And so in one of the passages, it says, do not steal the other person's food when he's looking away. So it's like, you might think that students, Dogen students were like exceptional kind of people, but maybe sometimes they were just kind of basic, like, they didn't have a lot of food sometimes. And it's like, well, if someone kind of walks away from their food, you're not supposed to take it. When you prepare food, never view the ingredients from some commonly held perspective, nor think about them only with your emotions. Maintain an attitude that tries to build great temples from ordinary greens. When making a soup with ordinary greens, do not be carried away by feelings of dislike toward them, nor regard them lightly. Neither jump for joy simply because you have been given ingredients of superior quality. By the same token, do not indulge in a meal because of its particularly good taste. There is no reason to feel an aversion toward an ordinary one. Your attitude toward things should not be contingent upon their quality. A person who is influenced by the quality of a thing or changes his or her speech or manner according to the appearance or position of the people the person meets is not a person working in the way. So this is quite a interesting statement. We know he's talking about the position of a cook, but he's talking about any position that we have. So it's not like, we like or dislike a person, or even, and that's where we practice, right? With the greens, with the vegetables that we're working with. And that kind of practice extends into our human relationships. I'd read something once from Dogen who says a person working in the way does not kind of react to a person because of how they look. And I thought, when I first read it, I thought, wow, that seems like really basic. And what's Dogen talking about? Why would anyone do that? But as I've studied a little more, I see, yeah, we do that. If someone doesn't look the way we like, there's something that really kind of reacts to aversion. It's very basic. So the more I've studied this, the more I see he's really talking about something very basic in our life, of how we pursue what we want to get and avoid what we don't want. So handle even a single leaf of a green in such a way that it manifests the body of Buddha. This in turn allows the Buddha to manifest okay, I kind of lost my place, sorry. Well, it allows the Buddha to manifest itself in you. Paraphrasing. So yeah, we handle like the just an ordinary leaf of a green that manifests the life of Buddha. He also says with the pots and pans, treat them as if they are, your skull, your head. Handle them in such a way that we take good care of them. Now, this is really the way that we create joy in our life, becoming intimate, very intimate with our circumstances, with just what's in front of us. So he says, a joyful spirit is one of gratefulness and buoyancy. You should consider this carefully. The Sangha is the most precious of all things. Those who live in community are unfettered by pettiness of social affairs. Such a community manifests a refined posture, devoid of fabrication about the world. Therefore, rejoice in your birth to this world where you are capable of using your body freely to offer food. Consider the innumerable possibilities in a timeless universe. We have been given a marvelous opportunity. The working as a cook will never decay. My serious desire that you exhaust all strength and effort of all your past lives, past, present, and future, and every moment of every day into your practice through the work of the cook. To view all things with this attitude is called joyful mind. So it is developing this kind of intimacy with everything we touch, see, smell, and taste, that a joyful mind will be created in our lives. But it's a practice, and that's why we call it cultivating joy. Okay. I'm going to conclude my talk with just another paragraph. Magnanimous mind is like a mountain, stable and impartial. Exemplifying the ocean, it is tolerant and views everything from the broadest perspective. Having a magnanimous mind means being without prejudice and refusing to take sides. When carrying something that weighs an ounce, do not think of it as light. And likewise, when you have to carry 50 pounds, do not think of it as heavy. Do not get carried away by the sounds of spring, nor become heavy-hearted upon seeing the colors of fall. View the changes of the seasons as a whole, and weigh the relativeness of light and heavy from a broad perspective. It is then that you understand and study what magnanimous mind is. I have to admit, though, I think this morning was the first time I've heard a bird song from my window. And it was kind of heartwarming. Then I had to think, was it just because I had my hearing aids in. One of our residents at Hokyoji, Kyoku, keeps in the spring, says she's just like delighted by all the sounds of the birds, but I never hear birds. I've made this theory for a long time that there's climate change going on, and all the birds are disappearing from Hokyoji. And some ornithologists actually confirmed that, who was visiting us. On the other hand, when I put in my hearing aids, I heard all kinds of birds. So anyway, I'm not sure if my theory is correct. Okay, I'm going to conclude with one last sentence. Whether you are the head of a temple, a senior person, or other officer, or simply an ordinary participant, do not forget the attitude behind living out your life with joy, having the deep concern of a parent in carrying out all of your activities with magnanimity. Well, Dogen wrote this when he was 37 years old. So that's about all I have to say. And of course, I'm just taking up the work of cooking because we think of it as kind of an ordinary activity, but it's anything we do. And it's all of the work we do. It's just a metaphor or a simile for all of the different jobs we might have in our life. So how do we take care of these things with the utmost care and concern that we can create? And the resulting effect of doing that, our life will become more joyful and we'll be more grateful for many things. So that's, we scheduled this talk to end at 10, and it's 10:04, so just a little bit over time. So I'll invite any questions or comments or concerns. I say rebuttal too. So is anyone, I think Colson, maybe you'll, or maybe can people just unmute themselves if they want, or if they have some comment? If you don't have any comments, or does anyone have I'll give you another 30 seconds.
Good morning, Dokai.
Hello.
I'm Tanya Nelson. I thought I'd introduce myself because...
Thank you, because I'm not sure I know you.
Yeah, I've been to Hokyoji for the women's retreat a couple times.
There you go.
And for the women's retreat, usually you are on your way exiting.
I'm not by choice, not by choice.
I know. So I am delighted to attend the talk today. This was wonderful. I personally do love to cook, and right now actually I'm working on the gardening, and what I kind of struggle with is having too many expectations in mind. Expectations for how the garden will grow or how the cooking will turn out. And I don't recall you specifically having a passage in Dogen's part about that, but that seems like something that we have to deal with as chefs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, having expectations is kind of a big human problem. It's we can get into trouble.
So, yes, so thank you very much for your talk, though. And I don't know how many I will attend. This is right at the same time as the MZMC talks, which is.
Are you basically associated with MZMC, Tanya?
Yes, and my husband Bernie, who sat with us and is no longer here. Yes, we are regular members of MCMC.
Okay, nice to meet you then.
Very nice to meet you.
There was another same thing. There was another woman who I didn't know when we were doing our session, our public lecture, and sure enough, she had been to Hokyoji, but it was the women's retreat, so I didn't recognize her. So.
Yes, I'm Gabriele Wedde. I'm Gabriele Wedde.
Nice to meet you.
And I'm not from your continent. I'm from Europe.
Oh.
And from Europe. I'm from Europe. I'm from Germany.
Oh.
And I came here because of Corona and because someone told me to be here.
Oh, okay.
And I liked cooking more and more too.
Okay.
That's what I have to say.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask you to introduce yourself.
Yes.
What does it happen? I mean, who was the person who told you to be here?
Oh, Birgit.
Okay. That's one.
Birgit.
Okay.
Birgit. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
If nobody knows, how do you say your name? Birgit? Birgit?
Birgit. Okay.
Birgit. Okay. Okay. I'm probably not pronouncing it right, but also Birgit is from Germany also. Oh, I was wondering, Håkan, can you introduce yourself? If you're there.
Hello, I'm Håkan Gary Cobbs.
Oh, okay, Gary Cobbs. Well, it's nice to see you, Gary.
Likewise.
It's been quite a while.
It has. I'm still in Minneapolis. I'm hoping to get reconnected with Hokyoji.
Oh, okay, great. That'd be great. Gary and I used to practice together a lot. I just didn't recognize your Dharma name. Okay, well, it's nice to see you again, Gary. Håkan.
Likewise.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Well, is there anything else? Let's see, I think we've gone through everyone who, yeah. I mean, I know everyone else. Maybe everyone else doesn't know everyone else, but at least I have met everyone else.
Hi there. I wanted to introduce myself and say thank you for the talk. My name is Trina Brunk and was invited here by Kikan. And yeah, food. Yeah, I grew up, food was a big deal in my home, and food is one of the ways that I like to express love and joy and gratitude. So I appreciated your talk.
Thank you. And what was your name again?
My name is Trina Brunk.
Trina. Well, thank you for sharing, Trina, and introducing yourself.
Hi, Dokai.
Yes.
Mary.
I can't see who's.
Oh, Mary Winberg.
Oh, there. Oh, there you. Oh, there you are. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Yes, Mary.
Hello, everybody. So one of the things that came to mind, thank you so much for your talk this morning. And one of the things that came to mind for me is what happens to me when I'm cooking for other people. having people over for dinner, or big family Thanksgiving, or whatever it is, I worry quite a bit about what, what people will think. Am I doing this correctly? And sometimes I even won't try a new recipe because, gee, I'm just not sure how that's going to work out. And so there's a lot of, I really want to do this and love to have people over, but it's really uncomfortable, kind of this worry about how it's going to be accepted. And, I guess that's just a comment. It's just kind of part of, for me, it's just part of cooking for others.
Yeah. Yes, at the Hokyoji practice period, I served as the cook for 1 week, like I said, and I followed Carl Holtman, who's with us, and his cooking was so great. I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? I went into a panic for about 2 days trying to make the menus, nutritious. We say nutritious, simple, and delicious. So anyway, I was in a panic for a couple days ahead of time. Then once I started, it got to be a little easier. But I also wanted to share a story too, that when I was training in to be a Tenzo at MZMC, my teacher was Dainin Katagiri. And so one of probably the most important lessons I ever learned from her was to cook too much food is to be greedy. And, that doesn't actually kind of fit our normal understanding. It's like we think, oh, we want to make sure everyone has enough. So, and we kind of worry about not having enough. At least that's kind of where I come from. And, but she looked at it as, cooking too much is like greedy. It's like greed. And I found that with myself, like cooking oatmeal, I'll put, get it together, and I was like, no, it's not enough. Add one more, add one more cup or something, And then I wind up having way too much. And so anyway, that was just a really important lesson I learned from her. And when I do cook and I hit the amounts just right, that feels, it's very satisfying feeling to, instead of, loads of leftovers. So add that point in. Yeah. So yeah, it's a little nerve-wracking cooking for the community. At the same time, it's quite satisfying. I mean, there's a way that it's a real practice. Well, any other comments? Okay, well, I think we can close. And thank you so much for your kind attention and your participation today. And I think Hosen will have a couple of announcements. Maybe he'll say who's speaking next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Dokai, for your talk. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Before the announcements, I just wanted to report that Dokai is a good cook, in my opinion. And actually, one of my first memories of Dokai, the first time that I visited Hokyoji, there was like a potluck meal, and Dokai had made a gazpacho, and it was really good. And I always, I mean, I still remember it. I remember what that tasted like. It was very like fresh tasting. Anyway, there's lots of good cooks around here. So yes, thank you everyone for being here. Next Sunday, the speaker will be Rushin Jan Freer, and the title of his talk I find rather mysterious and intriguing. It is Rocks and Moo. So I hope that you can be with us for that and invite others to come also. And I wanted to put a little plug in for all the different places you can connect with Hokyoji on the internet. We have a page on our webpage, hokyoji.org, where you can see the lineup of these Sunday talks. And we also have a page where the recordings of those talks will be hosted. And we have a YouTube channel that will host these talks and also hosts past talks. There's a lot of really interesting talks on there, so something to check out when you've got some free time. If you're on Facebook, you can connect with us on Facebook. We'll be announcing the talks there and other things on Facebook. Please like and share so that more people can see Hokyoji and connect with Hokyoji on Facebook. Oh yes. So we're supported, Hokyoji is supported by the generosity of others, and if you'd like to make a gift, there's a link in the Zoom chat where you can do that. We're very grateful for your support. Thank you. So to close, together, let's recite the Four Vows. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it. So thank you again. And the last thing, the closing thing, we'll just have our 4 closing bells. Thank you.
Thank you.